Theron's controversial comments about Afrikaans have left many outraged. In an interview, the Hollywood actress says the language is dying, and I quote, not very helpful. To hear Solidarity's views, I'm joined by the union spokesperson, Morné Malan, who joins us virtually. Morné, thank you so much for your time this evening. This is obviously comments made by somebody who doesn't spend a lot of time in her home country anymore. Do you think that we've made too much of her comments?
Good evening, Marshall, or if you'll permit me the indulgence, Goeienaand, Marshall.
Goeienaand.
Yes, I think that, thank you. Yes, I think that to a large extent we recognize that the specific number that she mentioned, the fact that she said there's only 44 speakers, that's not really serious, and we can realize that that's just a joke, and South Africans are good at taking a joke, but it's really the underlying comments, the fact that she said the language is dying, the fact that she said it's irrelevant and unhelpful. Those sorts of things really hurt Afrikaans speakers, and actually, I think to a large extent, it hurts South Africans, because there's a sense that it's not just a betrayal of her language, but also a betrayal of the country. She had the opportunity to speak of her place of origin and to speak proudly of where she was born, but instead she chose to criticize it.
Yeah, I suppose the context was she was speaking about growing up not speaking English, and we all know the story about how she learned English watching American television when she was still a teenager, and that's why she speaks with an American accent. Are our feelings hurt? Or do you think it's a reputational damage thing to Afrikaans as a language down here in South Africa? What kind of damage do you think comments from somebody of her stature on an international platform where many of them would not have heard of Afrikaans had? How much damage do you think it makes?
Yes, like I said, it is hurtful to the Afrikaans community, and there is a sense in South Africa that, you know, we're sort of allowed to criticize one another internally, but we don't really like it when people criticize us from outside of our borders. And like I said, South Africa already has a handful of people in Hollywood. We have people like Trevor Noah and Andre Vosloo, people who have also made big names in America, and people who are still proudly South African. And there's a large sense in which she's not just dismissing the language, but also to a large extent dismissing South Africa. Like you said, there's not a lot of people in that audience who would have known of South Africa or would have known of her country of origin. And rather than promote it, rather than speaking of the positive aspects of a country, she instead chose to criticize it and to make us off as a kind of third world, irrelevant country, which unfortunately is likely one of the perspectives shared in a large part of the developed world.
I suppose what her comments have made was allowed, from the comments that I've seen on social media, has allowed a more honest conversation, an acknowledgement, a much needed acknowledgement that I think if not more than half of people in South Africa or Southern Africa who speak Afrikaans are black, or people of color, and that it is very much a living, breathing, developing, evolving language. Do you think we've made progress in acknowledging all of that and bringing into the circle all who call Afrikaans their mother tongue?
I think we have made strides in that direction, but I think there's still a lot more to be done. You're quite right, so that Afrikaans is a very diverse language. It is predominantly spoken by non-white individuals, regardless of whether or not that carries any real weight. But yes, it is a growing language. It is a diverse language. At present, the projections are that by 2041, there will be over 7.2 million South Africans speaking Afrikaans, which means that in absolute numbers, Afrikaans speakers are still growing relative to the rest of the population in South Africa. They are a shrinking group, but there are still going to be more and more Afrikaans speakers and a larger diversity of Afrikaans speakers going into the future, something that always needs to be taken into account when speaking about a language.
Anything but dying. Thank you so much for your time this evening. That's Morné Malan from Solidarity joining us virtually there. We thank him for his time.